Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Faryal Razzaq with our series Listen to Expert. And today we're very lucky to have Sir Harvey Deutschendorf, and he's a very seminal trainer. He's a book author, and he has like 30 years of corporate experience. And he is, working as a, for himself. He has a company and a website with the name of his very famous book. The Other Kind of Smart, which is the topic of today's session as well. And this book has been translated into Chinese, into Vietnamese, and into Saudi Arabia and published there as well. So I would like to hear more from Sir Harvey himself, and we are very honored. Sir, welcome to the show. We are very honored to have you here. So without much ado, I would like our viewers that you tell us how is your journey and how from corporate, hardcore corporate side and this kind of experience, you were a very seminal trainer before, and you are, a very renowned speaker as well. So you shift towards emotional intelligence and this softer side of, human behavior. So how does this journey go through? Please tell us about that.
Okay, yes. Yes, the journey began when, well, my parents came to Canada from Europe after World War II as refugees. They had lost everything, yes, during the war, and had to actually borrow money from their church to come to Canada. And, they were poorly educated and didn't speak any English when they came over. And so the first 12 years my brother they brought my brother over. He was born over there too. And the first about the 12 years, they were so poor that, there are days my mother would tell us when we get old, there are certain days that she had to feed my brother and I with one orange a day. I don't remember that, good thing, but we're very, very poor for at least the first 12 years of my life, and then we started to make a little bit more money. And I was always a dreamer. I wanted more from life than what I saw around me. My parents were poor, and we lived in a neighborhood that was very poor too. And I looked around and I always wanted more from life. And I thought for me that meant getting an education. And that was my ticket out of there. That was my way out of the situation I grew up in. And fortunately, I did very well in school. I was, a good student. I worked because I wanted to get out. And I did get an education, and I managed to I went to university. I got a degree, and I was the first one in my family to ever get a degree, as far as I know, actually probably to go beyond, I think, high school. But, and I was working. I was working as a professional. Life should have been really good. I mean, should have been very, very happy. But there was something missing. I wasn't totally happy with the work I was doing. I didn't have the relationships that I wanted to, good relationships, and I didn't know what it was. So I was reading a lot of self-help books and trying to figure out what was wrong with my life. And, nothing seemed to really speak to me. And then one day, in about 1995, I picked up a book by Daniel Goleman called Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And in that book, I started reading it, and something just jumped out at me. It said, your intelligence can come to naught when your emotions hold sway. And I thought, that's it. Because of situations I'd been through, I was smart intellectually. I was able to do the work and everything, but my emotions were the problem. They were holding me back. So I started reading this book, and I got very, very excited about it. And since then, I thought, oh, this is the answer. And I started doing all the training that I could, that I knew about on emotional intelligence. And I started doing my own my own personal work as well. We had I joined a men's group where we do our own emotional work, and people give us feedback, and we can be open and honest. And I started doing that, and I started to develop my own emotional intelligence. And then as I was doing that, I was very, very excited about it. I started to talk about it to wherever I could, and it occurred to me when I was talking about it, because that I learned about it through Goleman's book, and all the other books out there were very academic, and they were highly sort of business focused. And I thought, these are very powerful tools. Emotional intelligence is a very powerful thing, and we have to make it available to everybody so they can use it. And I thought, well, somebody should write a book to make it really, really easy to use for the public. Break it down in a way that it's very easy to understand. And well, I'm somebody. I had written a book.
No, you're
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. So I
No,
said,
no,
well,
the book was, yes, the book is really very well, structured and pretty easy to understand, gives you a very good tools to understand yourself as well. So please complete your story.
yeah. So I thought, well, somebody needs to write a book like that, because at the time there are no books like that were written out there that were easy to read, and just for the layperson that could read it and understand it and get something out of it. And most of the books at the time too were basically the theory of it, and you could read the books, but you wouldn't tell you how you could use emotional intelligence in your day-to-day life to better yourself. I mean, that was missing. So I decided I would write a simple book that would give people some tips on what they could do every day to better their life. And at the end of the book, just before I was ready to publish it, my publisher said to me, you should put in a little quiz so people can test your emotional intelligence, and so I put a little simple quiz into the book. It's also at the back of the website, so people they don't have to buy the book to get it. And on the website, it's self-scoring, and people can take the quiz and it will score it automatically. And it's also available in 120 languages. So just about any language in the world that people want to take it in, they can take it in that language, and it'll score itself. So yeah, and I managed to get the book published eventually, and I was still working full time when I started doing this, and eventually I just started to do nothing but work in the area of emotional intelligence. It sort of became the passion in my life, my driving force, and that. So it's become my mission in life, I guess you could say. Yes.
Amazing. What a journey, sir, I must say that, and how open you are about that. So you are kind of that success story that the student should be telling, that not any kind of adversity can be handled if you are persistent and you work on your emotions and yourself first. So, sir, there's one big question, it's still scientific community is very divided on that. What is emotional intelligence actually?
Well, emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize, to differentiate, and to manage our emotions and emotions of others around us. That's sort of the generally accepted definition of emotional intelligence. Now, my definition is I agree with most of it. I know we can manage our own emotions very well. I don't think we can manage others' emotions as well as we can our own, but I know we can influence other people's emotions, by the way we react to them. So it's actually it's using emotional intelligence to help our thinking. It's using emotional intelligence to build relationships with others. And to be able to use our emotions in a much better way to get what we want from life. Both, it's mainly used in business. Companies use it, but it's also just as powerful in our personal lives, in all of our relationships, because the same skills that we use in business to get along with our colleagues, to get along with our with our managers, people that we work with, are the same skills that we use to get along with our partners, with our children, with our friends, with everybody that we interact with. They're the same. So if we learn those skills, use them, that will elevate us in all areas of life. Yeah.
So can I deduce from your talk that you are from the school of thought where you believe that emotional intelligence is a skill, not an ability?
Well, emotional intelligence, we call it, it's a competence that we unlike our IQ. That's the difference between IQ. We used to think that people that were very successful because they had high IQ, but now we know that it's not only IQ. I mean, it's good to have a good high IQ to be smart in that way, but we also need to be smart emotionally. Now, the difference between our IQ and emotional intelligence is that IQ is basically it's what we're born with, and by the time we reach 18, our teens, it's basically set for life. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, we can develop it throughout our lives, and that's the exciting thing about it. It's whatever we're at, whatever level we're at, we can develop it, and we can develop it to a great degree, because I grew up in a situation where I never had the opportunity to develop it, but I am where I am today because I developed it. I recognized I needed to. That was holding me back, and so I was able to develop it. So that's the exciting thing. So because we can develop our emotional intelligence, we really are masters of our own fate, of our own life, because that's something we're in control of, and it's so highly related to how successful we are. Many companies now, in North America anyways, will hire people high in emotional intelligence. They'll choose people that are high in emotional intelligence before they will over talent or over IQ, because you can develop talent. So they find it easier to develop that than to develop emotional intelligence. Now, if of course, we grow up in a family that are highly emotionally intelligent, where chances are we're going to have more emotional intelligence. But the exciting thing is, even if we grow up in a family very, with a lot of strife, a lot of problems, we don't have to live with those things for the rest of our life. We can develop our own emotional intelligence on our own. So we're only limited by what we're willing to develop on our own. And yes,
So, can we take the questions? We have a question from one of the audience, and Miss Amna Siddiqui is asking that, do you think that gamifying emotional intelligence, mostly in terms of business, corporate terms, has lessened its accessibility for normal people?
So that has emotional intelligence in corporations lessened accessibility for normal people? Is that the question?
Maybe people at large, because we have gamified emotional intelligence, and it's become a very sought out skill and a very expensive corporate training. So maybe they're pointing towards that, the accessibility for a normal person to grow emotional intelligence, because they don't have access to these corporate clients, and it has been gamified so much that so what would you say about that? Because you are a very seminal trainer, you conduct all of these corporate trainings.
Yes, I think the thing is, with emotional intelligence, the good thing about it is we can learn emotional intelligence. We don't have to, on our own. We can read books about it. We can take courses. I'm coming out with a coming out with a course, an online course, in the next several months, so we can learn this. I mean, we can take training, which is expensive, but we're also able to learn this on our own. Some of the basic skills in emotional intelligence are not hard to learn. It's very basic. We can learn, for example, we can learn to be good listeners, by practicing simple things, by being able to listen to others, asking questions, paying attention to people, and remembering what they say and asking them questions, remembering things about them. Those types of skills we can develop, and those types of skills are what they will look for when we go into the corporate workforce. Because those are the types of skills that will make people feel they're very connected to us. Because when decisions are made, a lot of times in the corporate world, they are made on a one-to-one. People are promoted because somebody feels good about being with that person. It's not even, we think everything is made rationally, but it's not. If you come into an interview, you even if you're not the smartest person in the room, the most highly skilled, if I am interviewing and I feel a strong connection with you because you have emotional intelligence, you will get that job over people that are much maybe more highly qualified, have more experience and more talent, because I feel that connection. I will want to work with you. So those are the types of skills that the basics are not hard to learn. We just have to know what they are, and we have to practice them. And the more we practice, just a matter of practicing them till they become quite natural. At first, when we practice a new skill, it will feel uncomfortable, because and after we keep practicing, it will become more and more and more comfortable over time. So it's a matter of just persisting and learning and practicing. For example, for me, one of the things that I wasn't very good at was listening, developing connections with people. I didn't understand that what I needed to do was spend time listening to people, paying attention to them, asking them questions, because it made people feel that they were important. It made them feel good about themselves. That's and the skill is not hard to learn, but you need to keep practicing it and doing it. And that's what I say to people is practice those basic skills, because the thing is, we are all, as humans, hardwired for connection. It's important. We're hardwired for connection. If we're able to connect with somebody in a workplace and all of the rest of our lives, if we know how to connect with people at an emotional level, people will want to be with us. They will want to be around us. They will seek us out, and they'll want to do things for us and work with us. So that's as basic as it is in emotional intelligence. When it's all broken down, that's the core. That's the essence of emotional intelligence. Yes.
Perfectly. Very, sir, now the COVID has hit and the world has a new reality. So, how do you see the future of emotional intelligence now? Because a lot of people were stranded in their homes,
Yeah.
and we have seen a lot of violence, domestic violence, because
Yeah.
people were going through a lot of, grief and a lot of other host of emotions and uncertain future, unambiguous and situations. So how do you see the future of emotional intelligence and how we can, develop ourselves?
Well, it's been very, very difficult, and I've been writing articles now about how to use emotional intelligence to get through this time, because it's straining our it's straining our mental health and everything, and we need emotional intelligence more now than before. And I've written about how we have now that many people are working from home, it's much more difficult to make those connections online when we don't actually see each other. but there's a real desire I'm right now for people to connect. They're really missing that connection with other people, and even when they see them, they have to stay distant, separate. So there's a real desire, and I believe once we get a vaccine and this all ends and we can come back to living some sort of normal, maybe the way it was not totally before. It may take a while, but eventually we'll get back there, and people will have a real desire to once again to connect with one another, and because they feel now that need to do so, and they're really missing it. And that's really putting a strain, especially in relationships. When you talk about domestic violence, there's people that really have a hard time at this time managing their emotions. People that were struggling before, but now, they're forced to stay together, in a close space, for lengthy periods of time, and that is really becoming overwhelming. But that's where we need really strong emotional intelligence. So that even is making us realize that we need to develop these types of things. We need to develop our emotional intelligence, because in times of crisis, they are what will bring us through. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And besides, even before the COVID, a lot of researchers, a lot of big platforms like Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and World Economic Forum, they had been telling it that emotional intelligence is the future skill, future of the skill. And because it's the fourth industrial revolution, so artificial intelligence is here, and a lot of things are going to be automated. So this is the most sorted out skill that would be required in the future, like you said, connections. Because COVID has forced us to go online sooner than we planned, actually. So I have a question that always bugs me through, that if a person is really very emotionally intelligent, so he, don't you think if that person is manipulated because he can influence other people, because he is very good at reading and deciphering the emotions, so at that time, do you think that emotional intelligence can be a negative trait as well, because you can manipulate people?
Okay. Yeah. That has come up before, and uh, how we'll answer that is that emotional intelligence is not in itself a virtue. It's a tool. It's a tool that we can use, and we can use it
Okay.
for good, or we can use it for evil. People that are, they can use it to influence people for good. For example, we talk about Martin Luther King was able to influence his followers for
Yeah,
good, and
that's true.
well, but people like Hitler also used emotions to influence people for evil. So it's a tool that can be used by people that have, evil intent. They're very good at using emotions, and we see that using people's negative emotions to, against one another. So yeah, the that's the thing about emotional intelligence. It's a powerful tool, but it can be misused by people that have ill intent. And it's not that it's, people misunderstand that it's not like a virtue. It's a tool, and like all tools, that can be used for good, or can be used for evil. So yeah.
Understood. That's a very good answer, actually. Like, you have cleared a lot of my misconceptions. Like, I was wondering, should we be developing emotional intelligence? So, what is your point on, giving the emotional intelligence education right from the kindergarten to the university level? Because we do have few courses in higher studies, like maybe management, business, consumer behavior or something like that, but we are not taught emotional intelligence. I'm sure that there is not even a single subject of emotional intelligence in clinical psychology as well. So
Yes.
why we are not taking this approach of educating right from the start?
Yes, because yeah, it is coming into the school systems, and it's coming into the There's in the United States, Yale has a Center for Emotional Intelligence, and they are training, thousands and thousands of teachers to use emotional intelligence with their children, and it's starting right from kindergarten, going right through it. It's where it should be taught. It should be starting right from school, right from the beginning, taught. That's the best place to teach emotional intelligence, because the children are still very, very malleable. Once you get adults, you have to retain a lot of thinking. You have to, but for children, that is a place it should be taught. Now, there's becoming more and more of a realization that needs to happen. Of course, now the problem with COVID has set everything back, because there's the fear of becoming physically ill for the students and the teachers, and that's overriding this to teach emotional intelligence. But emotional intelligence can also be used to overcome fear, to be able to so it's coming into the school systems, and it's coming in very, very quickly, I think, because there's a lot of organizations that are working at bringing that out into schools. There's private organizations mainly. It's the government that's always the last to get on board something. It seems like these private organizations that see the need, and they can make changes, they can move much more quickly, are starting to move it into schools. It's always the government is the last to act. So, but it is coming, and I believe that will really transform our world once all schools start training in emotional intelligence. That'll be that'll be huge step, I think, when children learn it, and as adults they'll be able to use it, and their lives will work so much better, because it doesn't make sense that we're teaching a lot of things in school, but we're not teaching children how to like themselves, how to manage themselves, manage their emotions, how to get along with other people. That seems to be such a very basic skill that we need, and they're not learning that. Yeah. So
this is what my company is fighting for, that you should include this education right from the kindergarten. So Khatija Usman really liked the answer, and she says that you explained it very well. And there is Janjua F has asked this question, that how we can increase self-awareness in our children right from the start. So we are reaching towards the end of our session as well. So please explain some few quick tips, and especially how to increase the self-awareness in the children, and how to become more emotionally intelligent as well, please.
Okay. First of all, the thing is, emotions are not good or bad. It's what we do with them that's the important thing. So when children have emotional outbursts, it's important to listen to them, listen to what they are, talk to them and say, what's going on, what's happening with you, what's going on, explain how you feel, explain what things like that. And if we listen to children, and let them speak, let them share their emotions with us, and if we share with them what we're feeling as well, that's important. They have to see us, that we're willing to be emotional, we're able to share with them, allow them to speak, but set boundaries, set parameters, let them know what's acceptable and it isn't, but listen to them. They're having emotions. When they have emotional outbursts for a reason, there's something going on with them. So find out what that is, listen to them, so they will learn that emotions are not right or wrong. It's basically how we manage those emotions.
That's it. So, can you give us some quick tips how to grow ourselves emotionally, and how to become more emotionally intelligent, and for self growth, and for success, and for the right perspective in life, and finding a meaningful life actually?
Oh boy. Well, the first thing is to become more self-aware. When we find ourselves getting upset, a lot of times what we are getting upset about is not actually what's going on. We're being triggered. Something has happened in our past that is coming up for us at this time. So becoming aware that when we get upset, it's something way in our past, it could be even in our childhood. Becoming aware when those emotions come up and being much more aware of them, learning what makes us upset, what emotional, because a lot of people are not very self-aware, and learning when we react to somebody very strongly, it's something in us, and the more we become aware of that, what's going on inside us, that's the first step to becoming emotional intelligent. When we become aware of ourselves, we can become more aware of others, how we impact others, how others act around us. Okay, usually how others act around us is the way we are acting to them. So they are mirroring what we're doing, basically.
So, and the last question before we go, Khadija Usman has asked that, but sometimes they are crying so much they refuse to stop and talk, especially very young ones. She says that it happens to me a lot with 2.5 years old. When they are not ready to even listen to you, how can they're not willing to talk or communicate and open up. So how do you calm that child and tell him to be aware and be emotionally intelligent, and how to handle that actually?
Well, if they just, that's I'm not that's not my area of expertise, but I would say, like don't don't get first of all don't get upset with it. When the child is crying, if you get upset, the child will cry more. And I think if you remain calm, remain in control of your own emotions, the child will eventually stop crying, and just comfort them, be there for them. If if there's nothing physically wrong with them, uh, they are crying for a reason. They're trying to get some need met, and so that's not happening. But keep yourself calm, and don't react. Write it out. That's all you can usually do.
Okay, sir. It was such a wonderful discussion that I don't know where the time went, and we will definitely would invite you sometimes later, because there are a lot of questions that we would like you to answer, and we would like to know more about the book. I will share the links to the book and that amazing test that you have, a 5-minute emotional intelligence test. I was so amazed, and it was very mesmerizing. So I will post that link in the description when I post the video. And says thank you so much for being here, for giving time, and quickly, any last word and any last advice that you would say before we log off. And thank you so much for being there, sir.
Well, we're all hardwired for connection. The other thing that's important to remember is we feel before we think. We feel before we think. So our emotions come into play before our thinking brain. So, something that we're feeling strong emotionally, don't react. Give yourself about 6 seconds for you to think about it, to make better decisions when you're very upset. Don't react right away. So one point important, very important
Six
point.
second, I think 6 second we can do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty manageable. Thank you so much for this great tip, and it was wonderful having you. And thank you, viewers. And inshallah, we will be having more sessions, and definitely we'll call you again. And I wish you a good night, I guess, over there, and
Yes,
wish my viewers a very good day. And I hope it's going to be a great weekend.
it was a
So
great.
in the end, like Sir Harvey says, that connections. So what does connections means? To be kind, to be empathetic. So we are
Yeah,
here to coexist. So we need a very peaceful, a very inclusive, and an inclusive society where everybody cares for each other. So it's been a pleasure. So take care, all of you. Allah Hafiz.
it's been a pleasure being on. Take care. Have a good evening.
Take care.